this is going.
I was just going to say, what I try and put into mine is humour and a level of cheekiness, because that's me as a person. Not that you'd ever know that, but I just, it is difficult because everybody's trying to get the same information or coming. I mean, Joe Burt did say that when I did the interview with him, now he's been interviewed, I don't know how many times, but hundreds and hundreds of times, and he was actually quite impressed with the different questions that I gave him. So from it's difficult, but I don't know how you would approach it in any other way. I don't know. Well, Jason. What?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the questioning, isn't it? I suppose, because whenever a band gets interviewed, or someone interviews, say, an actor or whatever, it's always the same set of questions, isn't it? It's what were your influences? What are you writing this song about? Just kind of the same questions. It'd be interesting to, if I wanted to see a band or see them get interviewed, I want to know something completely different from the music. I get to know the people behind the band, that kind of thing. Just make it a bit different, because once you've read one blog where you're being interviewed and asking the same questions, it doesn't really matter if the band changes. If the questions and the format are the same, it's eventually going to get dull, I suppose.
I was going to say, I recently reviewed a single for sort of a band, and I actually did it as a story because I like writing short stories, because I thought, well, I'd seen that loads of people had reviewed it, and I thought, well, I'm only going to say the same thing, and that's not what I'm about. And actually, lots of people believed that it was a true story, it was a gig. But I thought, well, you can't do that with everything, but I did try with that to make it a little bit off the wall, and I don't know. I don't know how many ways you can keep changing the format. I don't know, really.
Well, I suppose you must find it different or difficult, because on your radio show you have loads of bands when you interview them, and like when you've interviewed us, it just ends up being banter, and it's fun. You know what I mean? It's not like you're being interviewed. It's just like you're having a chat with one of your mates, kind of thing, and I think that's more refreshing.
You know what
I've experienced. I
do appreciate that, Jay, because that's one thing when you talk about stuff getting dull. That's why I'm constantly trying to improve and kind of revamp the show a little bit so it keeps it interesting. Because for me, it can be really difficult. Granted, I do have a few normal questions that I answer, but the rest it all depends on what the band's saying. Because like you, I want to know background stories. I want the band to feel comfortable, and we're sitting right next to each other chatting and just kind of essentially shooting the breeze. So, and some bands make it very difficult because they won't give you anything, and I'll tell you that right now. And because I've got over 200 bands interviewed in the past 2 years, and I've run into some little snags here and there, and even with my I call them my draw out questions. There's been some times where still they're like, yep, no, it's like, well, thanks a lot. No, this has been a good waste of time. Appreciate it. So, I don't actually say that because I don't want to be rude to them, but sometimes it's just they're not giving me anything, and that's the most frustrating part when you're asking questions that shouldn't be yes or no, and they're still giving yes or no answers. So,
yeah.
So,
like that just then.
Yeah.
But no. I'm just saying in general. I mean that's my take on blogs. Is you have to keep it interesting in order to keep people interested in reading them, because otherwise, you're right, it's just the same thing over and over again, and you get maybe a few lines in, and you're trying to nod off and fall asleep because you've seen these questions a million times, right? So, and it's got to be, it's rewarding, but it's a hard job to do. It really is.
Well, I can imagine. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd get too annoyed, and I don't think a lot of bands would like me interviewing them anyway, because I probably ask them really odd and difficult questions. So.
like what though? What would you ask a band if you wanted to know something about their private life? Then what sort of question could you ask?
Okay, I'd ask. Well, one of the dynamics of a band, I'd ask who's the most unreliable member of the band, for example. Get a bit of banter going between them. I suppose one of the other good things would be, like, for example, a band will always have a song that is about somebody or an experience. So I'd go into that in a bit of detail, because you often ask somebody, what's this song about? And they might say, oh, it's about like an ex-girlfriend or something bad that's happened, and that's pretty much the end of that story, isn't it?
Right.
So it'd be more interesting to sort of go and delve in a bit deeper. I go a bit old Parkinson on them.
Yeah. How much of a loser was this person? I mean, did she? It's like...
yeah, exactly. Like, really go to town on them. Find out, because the thing is, I think if you understand the whole point of a band, i.e., why are they making the music? What pushes them to want to create the music, and how serious are they about it as well? Like, with the three of us, we're not really that bothered about getting a record deal and selling records. We're just making music because that's what we enjoy doing. So it'd be nice to see bands that you like and you go and support. How serious are they? And really go to town on finding out as well, because like I said, you'll ask a band a question like that and they'll just be like, oh yeah, this is why we're doing it, and that's the end of it. We'll delve a bit deeper. That's what I want to see on your next interview.
Hey, I've got something funny for you.
Is it
Lee? 70 Lee's just tweeted, who's the most unreliable in the unassisted?
Oh, I'd have to say me, because I keep breaking stuff. It's like with our first gig, I broke this arm 3 days before our first gig, and we had to cancel that. And I'm forever injuring myself. So
Did you break things as a kid?
Yeah. It's 3 times I've broken this arm. Yeah.
Is that football? Is that in football? Or?
No, it's just me being clumsy. There's no cool stories behind it. It's just me falling over, being a douche.
Yeah. See, I haven't broken any bones, but I did have a nice slice on my arm. I know you guys will probably, maybe you'll see it. If you can see the scar there.
Oh, okay.
So
bit, yeah.
that was from about 5 years ago at my old apartment, and the windows on this thing were really old, and I was knocking on it, and I went too hard, and my arm went right through the window. So I had about 8 stitches later. Luckily, I got very lucky. The doctor said I missed every major artery and vein. But 8 stitches later, and let me tell you, like, it wasn't. The thing is, it wasn't painful. It was just annoying more than anything. It really wasn't, because it was such a fine slice, and it looked like a crime scene because the blood dripped from the outside into the indoors before I got to the hospital. And the only thing is, with the ERs here, the emergency rooms, I waited about 6.5 hours to get in to get my stitches done.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not...
The only fun I had was when I was waiting. 2 women, so mother, grandmother, and daughter, were pretty much in we'll call it the little room next to me. They got that little kind of curtain divider. And she saw my arm. She goes, "Wow, that looks pretty bad." She goes, "What happened to that guy?" And I said, "I don't know, but I F him up pretty good." And she looks at me. She goes, "Oh my God!" It's like I started laughing. I said, "I'm just kidding. Do you think I'd be back here without a police escort if I'd done that?" She's like, "Oh, fair enough."
Well, I broke my little toe. My second little toe, because an iron fell on it point first.
Oh, but
What is that about? I did put it on top of the fridge. That was a bit stupid, really, wasn't it?
Why would you put an iron on top of the fridge?
And I went, that's really dangerous there. That could fall. And lo and behold, on my toe.
Well, better that than your forehead, eh? Like, ah!
Yeah, that's true. Iron head, that wouldn't be cool.
It'd be like a Home Alone scene, getting the hot iron in the front of your forehead.
No, it wasn't plugged in at the time.
Oh, good.
It wasn't that stupid.
But so you also want to talk about that Phil Rudd, the drummer from AC/DC, just recently got arrested.
Yeah. Well, it just made me think, because we were talking a couple of episodes ago about dementia, weren't we?
Yes.
And so it was just weird to then see the other sort of side of it, where it's the rock and roll side, and he's in his 60s. I think he's been in and out of the band, hasn't he, over the years?
Yeah.
Because I think they kicked him out, didn't they, in '83, and then he rejoined in '94. And I think at the moment, because they're bringing this new album out, but he wasn't on the promo for it, so he wasn't in the photos. So I think everybody was getting a bit confused as to whether he's actually still in the band. And then this happens, and I don't know, it just made me think about sort of the likes of Jim Morrison, and Kurt Cobain. And I just thought, I mean, you're a musician, Jason. What do you think about, people when they get rich and famous, the coping with, the fortune of it all?
The thing is, though, I think with most musicians, I don't think the drug taking and self-abuse is because they're rich and famous. I think probably a lot of that starts before they got rich and famous.
Absolutely.
And it's just basically being a musician. And I mean, a lot of great songs wouldn't have been written if a lot of people hadn't got a bit messed up on some illegal substances. It's just the character, isn't it, and the nature of some people being creative. It's what makes them more creative, I suppose. I'm not condoning it in any way, or
no. I think a lot of creatives do suffer from sort of a form. Not everybody, obviously, but there are some that suffer from forms of depression, and I think that can add to it on it. And I think, well, a lot of comedians are known for that, aren't they? Where I think, to do what they do, stand-up comedy, and be so sharp and everything else, I mean, your brain must be buzzing constantly. So probably, you never get that total chill out because it's always on the go. I mean, that must be tough, really.
It's like self-medication, and on a comedian's side of things, it's more or less, you're right, they feel the need, they have to be on all the time. So these drugs they think are helping them out, and I always see many cases it ends up being their demise, unfortunately. But just in general, with past people, there's been like a whole whack of them: Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Keith Moon, Kurt Cobain. The list goes on and on. And even John Bonham. But the thing with John Bonham is his doctor, believe it or not, pretty much told him, you got to stop doing this, man. You're gonna kill yourself. But the only thing the doctor told him, he said you got to quit. But you got to wean yourself off kind of slowly but surely, because if you do it all once, it's going to be too much of a shock to your system, and then it's going to be almost like an imminent heart attack.
Well, yeah.
I was going to say, but the adrenaline rush you get, I mean, I used to be an aerobics teacher. I haven't done it for a while, but I mean, if I had a really big class, the adrenaline, God, it used to take me hours to calm down afterwards. And that's not, but that kind of endorphin rush and everything else. I mean, if they're coming off the stage, they probably need to keep that up by taking some drugs if they're doing these massive stadium gigs in order to kind of, I don't know, bring it down. I don't know. I mean, I just know from what I've experienced, you just sort of think, that feeling of wow, and it makes you feel really kind of powerful, doesn't it? All these people, it must do, all these people there to sort of praise your music and everything else. I mean, I don't know.
Well, it definitely is a rush, and for me, like if I'm at a concert, if like a really good tune comes on, like, or a good tune like by the band, like, I get into it just on the power of the song alone, and I get like really kind of revved and wound up, So I go from kind of nodding my head to kind of bouncing around and just plowing people in the pit, So,
you're a bit worrying to go to a gig with, though.
Well, no, you know what I mean. I don't necessarily mean I'm not hitting them. I'm moshing. I'm not winding up and punching someone in the back of the head or anything like that. It's nothing like that. I'm not aggressive like that.
It takes me back to the punk days, crikey.
I think, I've worked with a lot of people and seen, gig with a lot of people and stuff. And I think it just depends on the character. I mean, you get it in all walks of life, where some people are going to be dependent on drugs and abuse them a lot more than others. And then you're going to have people who, aren't going to touch them at all, regardless of, whether they're musicians, depressive, or super creative and whatnot. I think it all depends on the character. Because I've gigged with people where they can't go on stage unless they've had a couple of lines and have dropped a couple of pills.
Oh my god!
But, That's just the nature of that person, I suppose.
Is that hard to kind of work with, though? Because, if you're not like that, is it hard to work with?
Not really. I suppose